Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We are getting ready for another incredible weekend, another Shabbat. We're going to fill it up with great good stuff, spirituality, as much as we can. And we're going to take from this Shabbos blessings, as we say in the Chadoidi, Ki hi mekor habracha. It is the source of blessing. We're going to take as many and as much blessing as we can from this Shabbos. This week's Torah portion is the portion of Shoftim. Shoftim v'shoitrim titin lacha b'chol she'arecha. Judges and policemen you shall place at all your gateways. We had 3 weeks of punishment, and then we have now 7 weeks of comfort and consolation. This week is the 4th week of comfort and consolation, so we already had 3 weeks of comfort and consolation corresponding and to make up for the 3 weeks of punishment. That means that this week, which is the 4th week, it's already this is already the overflow of comfort and consolation and support and of closeness that God gives the Jewish people. And it begins with the words Shoftim v'shoitrim titin lacha b'chol she'arecha. There is the famous interpretation and commentary of the Shalah HaKadosh, who is buried next to the Rambam in the Maimonides in Tiberia, and he offers the explanation that we should place judges and policemen at all your gateways. That refers to the gateways of a person's body. Of course, the Torah is telling us what it's telling us in a very literal sense, and according to the Rambam, the commandment is that in all your cities and in all your villages in Israel, we have the obligation to place judges who decide right from wrong and policemen who will then administer the judgment of the judges. But then, of course, the Torah can be understood, and it should be understood, on the many different layers, the infinite amount of layers that God has invested in his eternal wisdom that he gives to the Jewish people in the books of the Torah. So the Shalah HaKadosh helps us uncover these deeper levels of messages that exist in the literal words. And he tells us that the Torah is also commanding us to place judges. Judges are the ones that use their wisdom, and they look at things objectively as best as they could on a rational, logical, wise level, and they decide matters. They decide the matter, and then they have the commitment, the resolution, the discipline that has to carry those things out, the policeman. And he says that this commandment is talking about the 7 gateways of a person's body, of a person's head, the 2 eyes, the 2 ears, the 2 nostrils, the mouth, that we should place judges and policemen. We should always consider, every time we decide to listen to something, we decide to look at something, we decide to enjoy the scent of something or somebody, or we are putting something into our mouth, it requires always judging whether it should be done or not done. But then a lot of times people have the knowledge but don't apply that knowledge. And for that, you need the policeman to carry out the conclusions of the judges. Then there are other commentators who say that, considering this interpretation, that those are the gateways, we see that God gave us 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth. And that is because a person should always listen and hear and see, and he should use his smelling twice as much as what he speaks. Talk less and listen and see more. But then there's another interpretation from Rabbi Yitzchak of Barditchev, which is very beautiful. Shoftim v'shoitrim titin lacha b'chol she'arecha. You want to know something? Says Rabbi Yitzchak of Barditchev. The judges and the policemen that you have at all your gateways, here in this world, up in heaven, the channels of blessings that you receive in your life, titen lacha, you are the one that is placing those judges and those policemen. You know how? The Talmud tells us, "B'mida she'adam moided ba moidedin loy," that in the measure that a person judges others, and in the measure that a person deals in his own life, that is the way God deals with him. When you look at a person with a positive eye, when you are less judgmental and you are more kind and giving and good, then God will be less judgmental and God will be more good, kind, and giving. Shoftim v'shoitrim, says Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Barditchev. The judges and the policemen that are at your gateways to give you in this world and after 120 years in Gan Eden, those are the ones that you placed, those judges and those policemen, based on how you implemented your own judgment and your own discipline in this world. Those are the results that become you and become what you receive from God. Very, very powerful, powerful idea. We have something else that is in this week's Torah portion. Tzedek, tzedek tirdoif. A person should pursue judgment. Very, very important. One of the pillars upon which the world is supported and exists is tzedek, is righteousness, judgment. And here the Torah repeats it. It doesn't just say tzedek tirdoif, it says tzedek, tzedek tirdoif. That judgment and judgment, righteousness and righteousness, what is proper and what is proper, you should pursue. Run after it, even if it means making the extra effort. And the commentators, they say, what does it mean, tzedek, tzedek tirdoif? Some people, they feel that the ends is justified by whatever means are used to reach those ends. And the Torah is not agreeing with that. The Torah is saying, tzedek, tzedek tirdoif. In order to reach what is right, it should be reached with righteousness. To lie, to steal, to stab people in the back, and to do things that are wrong in order to reach what you believe is right is unacceptable. As a matter of fact, the Torah says that whoever does a mitzvah and it comes at the expense of having done something wrong, not only is the mitzvah not considered a mitzvah, but I'm putting on tefillin. But you stole it from a widow. You stole the money from somebody. So, but I'm putting it on tefillin. I'm making a blessing. I built a synagogue with that money. God says not only is it not considered a positive act, God says he detests that type of offering and that type of sacrifice. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdoif. The tzedek, the righteousness and the goodness, tzedek, through righteousness and goodness, it should be pursued. Very, very powerful. Another important instruction that helps guide us in life we're getting out of this week's Torah portion. There's something in this week's Torah portion which I personally have always felt very close with and connected with it. And that is where it says in this week's Torah portion, Tomim tihiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. You shall be wholehearted with God your God. That statement is told to us after it tells us, don't follow the sorcerers, don't follow the soothsayers, don't follow all these people who claim to know the future and you're going to turn to them, crystal ball readers or whatever else it is. And he concludes all those negative commandments with the words, Tamim tihiyeh Hashem Elokecha. God willing, as we approach the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we talk more about the principle of teshuvah, of repentance, of returning, restoring our soul back to its pristine and its clean situation. The first step of restoring your soul, just like when you have an old painting, a dirty car, a dirty diamond, you want to restore it back to its pristine glitter. The same is also with the soul and its holiness and its refinement and its attachment with God. The first step, Rabbi Zusha of Annapolis said, was Tamim tihiyeh Hashem Elokecha. What does that mean? Rather than trying to obsessively divine the future, be wholehearted with God your God. Trust Him and accept His providence. You will therefore not fret about the future and thus not feel any need to foretell it. If you behave in this manner, God will keep you in His land, in contrast to the pagan nations whom He will drive out on account of the abominations that they practice, all the soothsayings and all the practices of witchcraft and all the other different methods that they did and they do these days that we want to depend on outside of putting our complete and full trust in God. Moses tells us in this week's Torah portion, this is the path to take in order for you to be kept in your land. You want to hold on to your security. You want your 2 feet to be standing firm on its own land, on its own ground. The best way is to take every day and every minute with an approach and with an attitude of Tamim Tiyem Hashem Alekecha, be wholehearted with God your God. And then we conclude this week's Torah portion with Anoichi hu menachemchem, that double expression that Isaiah uses as he is talking as a prophet on behalf of God. Anoichi hu menachemchem. His attitude and his style was this double, repetitive comfort that he offers the Jewish people on behalf, of course, of God. These next 4 Torah portions, the prophets that we read, is God Himself. Until now, it was a little bit of a communication that went between God and the Jewish people, and the Jewish people back again with God. But these next 4 weeks is God giving us His full attention, His full mercy, and His full mercy, that He's always with us. He will always be with us. The 3rd temple will be rebuilt. You will see yet the streets of Jerusalem to be filled with boys and girls, with men and women, and all the joy and the happiness. May the completion of all those prophecies come through speedily in our days, maybe even before the end of today, even before Shabbat. But one of the commentators, they say, what is the explanation to this double expression that Isaiah uses? Anoichi, anoichi. It is I, God, that comforts you. So the commentator, they say, there are 2 sorts of comfort. There is the comfort of a father, and there's the comfort of a mother. The verse says, Karachim oval bunim, that a father has more mercy on his children, while when it comes to the mother, she has a different nature, Ki'ish asher imoy tenachamenu, like a man comforts him. A different kind, a different quality of comfort comes from a father. It's more of a mercy, a rachmanis, and a different style and a different quality of comfort that comes from a mother, which is more of a comfort and a consoling, more personal, more emotional. And that's what this week's Torah portion, when we are going to read the portion of the prophets, is giving each one of us. Anoichi, anoichi, God says, it is I as the father, it is I as the mother that is comforting you. So let's take all that strength that we're getting from this week's Torah portion, make sure that we say the Kiddush tonight the way we're supposed to eat our meal, to do our prayers, same again tomorrow, to do our prayer, to deepen our connection with God, with the unique quality, and enjoy it. Shabbat Shalom to everybody.